what we're going to do in this next piece is we're going to add an element on the left, on the right side, and an element on the left side. The one on the left will come second, and it's not as prominent, so it's going to be rather simplified. But it is a mass that we need to look at. So as we do that, I'm going to return to our model, and if you remember, our model has this kind of orientation. So we can see that this side and this side are similar. They are shortened sides. This is the longer side, and it's right here. And we're going to put that roof on it that we kind of put together quickly. And you can see that if you are looking really closely, that this roof line is longer than the one behind it. So it's a little bit, it's not symmetric in the sense of it being similar sizes. What we're seeing is that distortion that happens. Now, we are going to add onto this a piece, and that piece is going to be placed here. It's plus or minus. It's pretty close to where it's going to fall, and that's going to be represented by this piece right here. So you can see where we're going. We're going to add a mass on. We're going to do some things up at the top, which I think are important to understand in terms of how these planes intersect. And then we're going at the end of the process, we're going to add on an element here. Now I'm going to share with you that these masses aren't perfect. In reality, this piece right here will lift up just a bit, and we'll draw that in, and it's going to have an overhanging piece that extends onto this roof line. So not to get overly complicated with this, but we're going to just build this piece by piece. So I'm going to set the parts back where they need to go. And we'll go ahead and complete the drawing. So again, good thing to have to refer to, but we're going to move on with the next piece of the drawing. So I'm going to change my note sheet here so we can kind of do this together. All right, so we're going to add this right side volume. We're going to put this new volume or this new addition onto this structure. And that structure is going to be projected from the midpoint of the structure. All right, so what that means is that we have to find the middle of this plane. Well, we just talked about how we do that. We're going to use a crisscross method because the proportion of half is easy to find. So what we do is we go from this corner down to the bottom front corner. So we come down to that point, draw a light X, just a light one, because we're going to erase this. Do the same thing at the lower right-hand corner and extend it up to the top of the leading corner or leading edge. So what I want you to see is that we've created an X right here. That's where they intersect. That's halfway. The front side, or the side closest to us, is always going to be bigger. Side on the back side of that X is always going to be smaller, just because of the proportionality of perspective. So as we extend that line up through there vertically, that's going to say that this object is halfway back on the main structure. And from that, we're going to extend that line from this halfway point, you might want to make a mark there, out 2.5 inches. So we're going to measure that with our scale, the 2.5 inches out. But to find that, how far that actually works, we're going to extend a vanishing point from the left to our midpoint, and then 2.5 inches beyond. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to use my scale. I'm going to line it up on the on my projection line here that we're doing, and I'm going to measure out 2.5 inches. So we have 2.5 inches, and that line is extending from the midpoint to the left vanishing point. That way, we have a way of building this new left side. So as we do that, we mark it, and we come back through and draw the line that we just measured, and that creates a new baseline. I'm sorry, it's almost off the drawing here just a bit. Apologize about that. My screen seems to be smaller than I'd like, but that's okay. This is the lower portion of the drawing. We'll be okay. So we measured 2.5 inches along here, and we stop it right here, just a little bit lower than is seen on your screen, and we put in a vertical line. See if I can adjust this. It's going to be a little wobbly, but I'm going to try to lift the camera up just a bit. It doesn't want to move. Okay, so sorry about that. All right, so now we have the bottom that was 2.5 inches out, and that was our dimensioned distance. What happens up above will be different because of the vantage point and the proportionality, but in the same way as we extended the line from the lower portion of the structure out to this new addition on the left side, we're going to do the same thing up above where it meets the roof. So we're going to find that point, that halfway point. We're going to extend it to the left vanishing point. So from the midpoint to the left vanishing point. And we're going to extend the line out. We're going to mark it first. And I think I could use probably a longer straight edge, but this will be fine for the time being. I don't like to use my scale that way, but I'm still going to just mark it over here. So we found this dimension here. We extended a line up. That's going to be our new leading edge of our additional cube. And it extends up just as far as it needs to go until it intersects the top line. So now we're working with really lines of intersection, less measured lines. There'll be some additional measured lines coming up in just a minute. But what I want you to understand is that by using the projected lines, we don't necessarily have to measure precisely where they are. We can use those alignments to make things work. So from the center point here out to this new intersection that we just drew, we're going to draw a line. So let's to kind of repeat. We found the middle, which was down here on the bottom and up here at the top. And we just took a vertical line through the middle. We have a top point and a bottom point. We extended that line to the left vanishing point and extended it out 2.5 inches. From there, that point, we went vertically up some height we didn't know, and we just left it there as a light line. But what we did know is that if we extend and project that midpoint on the top line all the way through to the left vanishing point and continue it on where those 2 points intersect, that completes the top line of that wall, because this object is by relationship a similar height. We're going to add to it in just a moment, but what I want you to see is that this object and this additional object are going to have some comparable features, those being in the form of some heights and some other boundary lines, which you'll see here in just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to draw this line in a little bit darker so we see it a little bit in a more pronounced way. All right, so now we have the beginning of this box, we're going to complete the back side of this box, or the right side. This is the left side. And to repeat our rules, the left side here, because it's presented to the view, this side goes to the left vanishing point, which is we did here. These lines project to the left vanishing point because they're projected towards us. The same thing's going to happen on the right side, but we're going to stop it at the place where the back of the structure is. And we can use projection lines to do that. So we'll see that in just a minute. Okay, so to find the right side projection or wall, we're going to project from the top corner and from the bottom corner to the right vanishing point, which is what we did on the base or the beginning structure that was provided here. So we're just going to draw those lines in lightly. And I took them back to the vanishing point, but you can erase those as necessary. So here's our, if you'll remember back, here's our horizon line. Here's our main structure here. Here's our roof structure we've done. Now we've started this addition. We're going to complete this block right now so you can see kind of how that happens. Now, we've projected from the top and the bottom to the vanishing point, and we're going to stop it somewhere over here, but we're not certain where to do that. What our instructions are for completing this object, and as I modeled with my cardboard models here, there's going to be an alignment between this addition and the structure itself, and that alignment occurs along the back of the object or back of the structure. So to find that, it's pretty straightforward. What we want to do is we want to project, I'm going to use the scale at this point because it's easier. We're going to project along the bottom line of the cube. See it right there. We're going to project from the left vanishing point, because we're on the back side, through to the corner of the structure and out and beyond. And we're going to do the same thing at the top. We're going to go from the left vanishing point through the back side of the object and extend it beyond. So let's do that, and we're going to end up with an intersection between the front projected lines and the back projected lines, and that's going to give us the edge. So here we go. Using the left vanishing point and extending the line out, use my scale here, or my triangle, I'm going to bring it out some dimension, some distance. And I'm going to say 3 inches would be okay, but don't use that as a hard note because it's not going to be a fixed dimension. We're going to do the same thing at the top, lining up the left vanishing point and extending it along the back of the house until it comes to that right corner. We're going to extend it out also. Now, as I mentioned, all verticals are vertical. So we're not going to be going off to the left or going out to the right. They're just going to be vertical. So generally speaking, you should have a pretty close alignment from the back intersection point here, where this line projects back and where the lower line extends to the right vanishing point. We're going to have a vertical line that extends from this point up to the similar condition at the top. And that's how we find projected boundaries for different objects. In this particular case, it's the additional piece or the addition to the structure. Now I'm going to hardline this in a little bit, and hopefully you'll see it a little bit more pronounced. Okay, Now I can kind of erase some of these tails. We don't need them. We do want to keep the horizon line well articulated here, so we'll make sure that that's well drawn. Okay, so what you see now is you see an object attached to the side of the primary structure. It aligns with the back and it's halfway through the front, and it projects from the floor or from the ground line all the way up to the roof line. So as part of this, we want to now look at extending up the floor line, that same line that we created a few minutes ago here. We want that line to be pronounced as well. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that line in, starting down here just to make it a little bit more visible, but I'm going to stop it at the new object or the new addition. I'm going to stop it there. I'm going to extend it all the way over to the other side. So hopefully that is easy to see. Now, the same rules that we applied when we were adding this side, left goes to left, right goes to right. That means that this line is projected, and you can test it by extending it from the left vanishing point, lift it up a bit, and carrying it through, and it goes along, oops, little tail on that. And what we see is it extends to here. So our object, our baseline runs from the center out to the intersection of the corner. It turns, comes out to here. Now it's going to extend back this way. And it's going to extend to the right vanishing point because it's on the side that faces the viewer. So now we have the object, we have a floor line for the main structure, we have a floor line that's applicable for the addition as well. So with that, we're going to create a roof intersection that occurs up here that isn't maybe as intuitive as you might think. So in order to do that, what we want to do is we want to find the center line of the roof. Now, there's a couple ways to do that. You can use your adjustable triangle to do it, but what you're going to find is that you can't take the slope on this side because of the distortion that happens. The slope on this side is set here, but if I slide that over to the other corner, it doesn't work. It is off from that application. So what we're dealing with here is a need to extend to find the middle of this roof, and we know where it is down here because that's the intersection. But we need to find it up here as well. So to do that, the easiest way is to using the back. Well, there's multiple ways to do it, and we're going to try a couple different ways so you can see how that works. If we take the if we extend the corner of the back side by doing the crisscross method, we can find where that back half of the house, where that occurs. And so we can do the same thing that we did before. So that now represents the back of that piece. Extend that line up and stop it here. So that line is right there. And if we extend those lines through, they should be very close. In fact, they are. They extend all the way through the portion there. So as a result, we're going to end up with a 1 inch, a ½ inch high roof extension on top of the cube. So let's go ahead and put that piece in. So we're going to extend that line up, It's right here. We're going to do all those things that we need to do to make it work. We're going to extend the right side to the right and the left side to the left. And that's going to give us this roof extension that's provided in the example. Now, I'm going to find this side over here. It gets a little back to my scale extension. Okay, that's pretty close. Now, what you're going to observe is that this roof doesn't match with the illustration. What's happening there is that this element right here is to overlay the roof. It's not going to be this angle, and it's not going to be this angle. It's going to be somewhere in between. Now, normally on something this small, I'm not going to get too hung up on the precision of the angle, but if I was to use a proportional dimension, and I use my my adjustable triangle, I could find that angle, and I'm looking on that. It looks like it's about 39 degrees. Okay, so I could use that, and I could split the difference between this angle here, which is actually a little steeper than it seems. This one right here is 48. So I'd say, okay, halfway between 39 and 48 is going to be probably about 46. So I would just come over here to 46, and so you could probably use a 45 and it would be fine. For this small piece, it's acceptable to do that. So what it means though is that it's steeper than this, but not as steep as this one. So we split the difference because it's about in the middle. There's some other ways to do this, and we can look at those a little bit later. But what that means is that that line is the point of intersection that overlays the roof. Now, having placed that on here, we can use that point because the object that we're going to be putting on the left side of the drawing, that addition we're providing there, is going to also be that high against the roof. So in order to make that work, we're going to just project around the roof line. Remember, if it's on the right side, it goes to the right, especially as it views to the front of the object. And on the left side, it's going to go the opposite direction. So I project a line from the vanishing point through the intersection point of the roof right here. Line up my corners. It hits that point of the roof edge. We're not worrying about it right now. What we're going to do is we're going to project from that point right there where that line projects through, and we're going to take it to the left side because it's on the left side of the facing elevation. So we extend that down, and it's going to give me a point right there. That's an important point because as we start this next piece of the addition, we're going to be adding on to this side of the perspective. So at this point, it's important to know that, oops, we need to project that. I made a mistake. Okay, so as we project this back corner to the opposite side, it's going to fill in and provide us with some additional information about what the back side of this structure is doing. It's not necessarily critical to the perspective, but it is helpful. And the reason I think it's helpful is it helps us to test the proportionality that we just established up here. We're approximately correct in that as we project back to the roof line here, we find where they intersect, and that line lines up with the line we just provided. So we just have kind of provided a test for ourselves. So that line extends out and comes back all the way through. And not a bad idea to go and put that line in as like a phantom line. So just a couple dashes provided there. Now let's do the same thing with the floor line. It'll line up with the line at the back. So hopefully this is similar. It does look similar at this stage to what we've got drawn here. We can of course go through and start dashing these lines in similar to this. It's not that important, but it sometimes helps later down the road as we're looking at the information, at the drawing information. So we've got the main structure done. We have the addition on the right done. And now we're going to do the addition on the left. So the object, the volume on the left side, is marked in that the floor is plus or minus 1.5 inches a line from the front. So we're going to just extend it about 1.5 inches this way. We could do some proportionality, but for this exercise, we're just going to say that in the same way we marked 2.5 inches here to create a base, we're going to create that with just 1.5 inches of extension here, and then we're going to build it from there. So following along this line, we're going to extend a line that is 1.5 inches from this left lower corner of the main object or the main structure. And we're going to mark that. Now, as we've done before, extending to the left vanishing point, we're going to draw a line through, and that's going to come to that 1.5 inch point right here. I'm going to mark that. And we're going to go ahead and extend our line out beyond the existing structure, and that's going to create that left side addition. We're going to do the same thing. Once we get to the end point, we're going to extend a line up like we did on this side, and we're going to see how that boundary gets established. Okay, so there we have the addition. It's lined up with the front. With that, we have a new vertical line, and it's going to line up with the top wall condition. So we're going to follow this top of wall, which is underneath the open gable piece of the structure here, and we're just going to extend it to the left vanishing point. Okay, so it goes from the left, even though we use the center, top center to line it up, they all still work. So we're going to go from the left corner, upper left corner, to the left vanishing point here, and we're going to extend that line till it intersects our vertical line that was produced just a minute ago. That is the biggest piece of the mass that is provided for in this left side addition. Although there's one other little piece, and as you remember, we mentioned that the roof has a little bit of an extension, I want to call it like a parapet condition, that rides up over the roof. And so we're going to want that to extend up and around and back to this item, or to this left side addition. So to do that, it's really pretty straightforward. We're going to continue that line as we did before from the roof height that is provided. We found that by projecting from the back where that intersects, also by averaging the angle here, and they come out very, very close, and extending it as we project from the right vanishing point up to this point. That's where we found that location. Now we're going to extend that by drawing a left line through the roof pitch on the left side and continuing it until it lines up with the roof, with that vertical line that we provided initially. So to repeat, we brought this out 1.5 inches. We gave ourselves a vertical line. We didn't know how high it was, so we extended it a little bit high. we took the top of the wall on the left side and projected it through its back corner or left corner, extending it to the left vanishing point, and carried it out until it intersected the vertical line that was provided for the left edge of that new addition on the left side. Then we carried that same roof line extension up across the slope, across the gable, and extending it to the left vanishing point, we found where it met that vertical line, and that's our structure. So I'm going to make these lines just a little bit more pronounced so they're a little bit easier to see. Okay, so now you can see this element here on the left side. We're going to throw in, just as a quick exercise, the fact that it only extends back as far as this distance or halfway. And that halfway can happen with just a simple alignment. So as we observe, we already found the left side right here by using the crisscross method. And we even looked at the crisscross method back here. And what we're going to find is that both work for this projection that's going to occur. So from the center line on the back, we drew that to find the backside wall here. We extend it down to the floor line, this dashed line that creates the backside of the ground. And we project through to the vanishing point. And we do that lightly. And what we find is that, there it goes. It lines right up. And from there, we can just extend that on beyond. We don't know how far, but not that far, believe it or not. So that now is the backside of this left-hand addition, because it's only halfway back proportionally in the object or for the main structure. So once we found that, we can do the same thing up above. We have this front edge halfway point. We extend it with the vanishing point through the roof. And there it is. It lines up at the halfway point again. Everything's working good. We continue to extend it just some distance. We don't know how far, but we'll know that in just a minute. So we have the back wall extended here. You can see it lightly. We have the back wall, the lower wall. The upper wall is here. Now all we have to do is find where it ends. And that's another intersection point. That's another way of how we did the backside of the main structure. And to a certain extent, the addition is the same rule applies here. So I'm going to find this corner. And because it's on the backside, it's going to go where? It's going to go to the opposite vanishing point. So using the right side vanishing point for the left side of the drawing, because it's on the back side, we're going to extend that back. I'm going to draw it kind of light, and it's going to intersect the lower extension or projected line that was provided on the floor line in the previous minute or so video that we did a minute ago. We're going to do the same thing up above. We're going to line up the top corner and project a line to the right vanishing point. And we're going to take a line through and we're going to stop it. So, depending on how precise you were with that line, the lower line and the upper line should be rather close, and that's going to give us a back boundary. So that back, this object here, this left side addition, it is bounded by the front boundaries that we established with that 1.5 inch, and all the other parameters just projected. So, but its backside, which is now going to be dashed in so we can see it a little better, I'll do that right now as I'm speaking, that was found by just borrowing those same extension lines, that we used previously. And completing the information there. So what we can see here by this drawing is that we have an object here, and I used the lower piece. We could extend it back here too. I don't think that's exactly necessary, but it is. It might be helpful if you want to get that that full extension up. In fact, I'm going to do that real quick here, just so that I clean up this piece of the drawing and it matches up more correctly with the example that was given. I'm going to go ahead and clean up this thing in just a minute. Let's go ahead and line that up. Oops. Let's make sure we're on the right alignment here. Here we go. Okay, good. And we could put that X over here, but for right now, we're not going to do that. We're just going to extend that up. I got to bring this line back just a bit. This line goes here to there. That line goes from there, goes across. I'm going to take this one. It was a little bit of an error. Make sure that lines up properly. Okay, so lining this piece up and this piece up. We will go to the opposite side, and that'll get us there. Okay, so this is our element here that goes to that corner. This element goes here. Okay, so what we see is the back portion of the object as portrayed in the front portion. And so we've done that mostly with projection lines, knowing what's happened on one side and going to the opposite sides as required. So in this drawing, we have all the elements that we need in this exercise, at least at this stage in the process. Here we have a left side. We have the main object, which is right here, and we have the right side addition that was provided.